big hello and a very warm welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Season 8 with me, Sonali Krishna. As usual, all eyes on COVID-19 and the impact it's having overall across sectors. But today we're going to be discussing a sector that's really shown exemplary growth due to the lockdown. I'm talking about none other than the Indian gaming industry. Believe it or not, during lockdown 1.0, the average time has gone up by 41% when it comes to gaming apps. This is really huge, and after the ban of gaming apps such as Mobile Legends and Clash of Kings, which are Chinese gaming apps, Indian gaming companies seem to have got a further impetus, and they seem to have a huge opportunity to fill this void. Without further ado, let me introduce my esteemed panel. It's Manish Agarwal, CEO of Nazara Technologies, Paavan Nanda, co-founder and CEO of WinZO, Oliver Jones, co-founder and CEO of Bombay Play. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Truly a pleasure having you on Leaders of Tomorrow. So let me start with you, Manish. Could you give me a sense as to how the gaming industry and, of course, your company have benefited? And is it actually true that there's been a quantum leap during the lockdown in terms of the gaming usage just because people are so desperately seeking entertainment?
Thanks, Sonali. I think the gaming industry has been really a great savior for a lot of us who are kind of locked down in home and really needs a dose of social interaction, though even virtually. So I think this has been a really very strong foundation for gaming to get into the homes of millions of Indians. And one interesting thing is that even the people who say they are not gamers, they are really spending considerable amount of time in playing, whether it's Ludo or they are playing word games or they are playing Sudokus. Even if you talk to the elders, they'll say, no, I don't know much of gaming or I don't play gaming, but they are really spending a lot of time doing that. This event has been acceleration in adoption of gaming across age groups, across towns, across pop strata in the country.
Let me get you into the fold, Paavan. India, I believe, is already among the top 5 mobile gaming markets in the world. Give me a sense in terms of stats, how the needle has moved, especially in India, in terms of gaming users pre-COVID and, of course, in the COVID era.
When you talk about India being the largest, or let's say among the top 5 economies, as far as gaming industry is concerned, I would like to emphasize that India is the largest country when you sort of calculate it by number of mobile games that get downloaded in a particular year. So India ranks number 1, ahead of China, ahead of US, in terms of mobile games, that are downloaded in a year. Just to put some perspective, I think in 2018, it was about 6 billion mobile games that were downloaded by about 300 million odd people, which means about 20 games are downloaded by a person in a single year's time, right? And of course, there has been a massive shift, or rather tectonic shift post-Geo era. So that's why I'm sharing 2018, 2019 numbers, where what was expected is that post-Geo, about 350 odd million people have come in, have smartphones in their hands and now playing games. And this number is going to move to about 550 odd million people by the end of 2022. So there is definitely a massive opportunity, right? There are about 50 crore odd people who would be spending close to an hour playing games every day, on their smartphones, right? This is just the organic or the natural rate of growth of the industry. Now came COVID-19, right? And suddenly there was a lock, stock, barrel shutdown. People had very, very limited options to sort of really spend time with. There's only so much streaming you can do. There's only so much of social networking that you can do. And essentially everything started converging in the form of gaming, right? Where gaming is not just playing single player games all by yourself. Now gaming is a full-bodied experience where you have your friends, where you have interactive experience, where you actually hang out with your friends on some of these gaming apps, right? I think this is how we are talking about, or I think definitely post-COVID there is going to be an even faster growth, so to say, and it's been very, very empirical in terms of the numbers that we see, both for some of these other players as well as for us on our platform.
Let me get you in, Oliver. What has been the impact of the Chinese players being banned? How much of that has really impacted Indian players such as yourself and others, and how is this going to pan out going forward?
On an average, as you had opened with, we've seen a 41% increase in installs, and revenues also rose with that. So to give an idea of the scale of the impact of this windfall on our industry, in terms of the amount of revenue generated from mobile applications, gaming and utility combined, you see that in India, especially more so than the USA, UK, or other countries, about 90% of the revenue of the purchases made through mobile phones is going on games, which is a huge number. So by the Modi government suspending these apps, Clash of Kings and Mobile Legends, I mean, the intent, I believe the stated intention was security, but if you really want to hit the pockets of developers, banning them from the India App Store is going to become a pretty significant dent in the quarterly revenues for them. And honestly, that revenue, which is going on games, will go to other developers now. The demand is still there. The demand is still strong. And the reason for that is that gaming offers to people the best value for money, more so than any other, than buying a book or going out to see a movie. The best value for money for entertainment, dollar for dollar, rupee for rupee, comes from gaming. There's such a vast market, a very high quality content for everybody. But will developers necessarily, mobile game developers necessarily benefit from the suspension of Chinese gaming apps? Not necessarily. We would estimate that these two games did not make too much revenue in the India market. I mean, we would estimate maybe Clash of Kings made between 4 and 3 million per month. Mobile Legends made between maybe 17 to 20 million, which is around about 227 crores. So it's a quite significant revenue, which will find its way to other developers. But will that be India developers is the question. And it's still a free market over here. So those rupees will go to the highest or the best quality entertainment that users will find.
Manish, I'd be curious, what is the kind of patterns you're seeing and where is the maximum traction coming from?
A lot of parents have now understood what their kids do. Previously, they used to think that, hey, listen, I don't know what my kid is doing, what my kid is playing. Now, since you can't really go out, kids are playing variety of games, and they are not just understanding what are those games, and they are really becoming part and parcel of it. So if you would have asked me this question 6 to 8 months back, I would have said that this is the concentration and this age group is the concentration. Today, I think those boundaries of who's playing, is it a male oriented, is it a female oriented, is it a 14 to 25 kind of an age group, I think all those nomenclatures have changed. One thing which is really kind of important is that different people are really finding different kind of games which they like. So you would have a different kind of games being played by early learners, 2 to 7, 2 to 8-year-old. You would have a different kind of games which 8 to 13, 14 are playing. And then from 14 to 65, there are a variety of games. Somebody likes a virtual ticket game, or somebody will like a Ludo game, somebody will like a shooting game, somebody will like strategy game. So I think we are all simulating what happens in real life. Each one of us have different kind of games which we like. And if you remember our childhood, there were so many board games to play, and you would choose different board games to your liking. So I think gaming becoming mainstream and everybody kind of really enjoying is just happening because we were all always playing in premise games. Now the convenience of mobile, you are just playing the games on your mobile phone, and you're connecting with your friends. Earlier, their gaming used to be pretty much in the evening, in the night. Now you have during the lockdown period, the peak hour of gaming was around 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. It's like I finished my morning chores, I've kind of done with my breakfast, and then I'm kind of sitting down to play. So that was becoming as a prime time.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the expert. I believe in terms of the Indian gaming ecosystem, if we had to, let's say, look at paid games versus, free with ads versus freemium, I think free with ads would be the one that would dominate the Indian ecosystem in terms of the revenue model. Do you see going forward the revenue model changing? And between these three categories, which one will get a push going forward with more and more focus on gaming as a very, very important and critical entertainment mode?
So, Sonali, I think the way I look at this industry per se is there are three kinds of revenue models, right? The first one can be simply in-app purchases, right? Where people go ahead, they will buy, different kinds of currencies or virtual coins that are there in a particular game, and you can simply pay some money to be maybe unlock a level, maybe buy a particular merchandise, buy some virtual clothes or anything that you like, right? That can be one kind of monetization, right? The second one is you don't take money from the users, but you rather show them, you try to monetize their engagement or their time spent by showing them different kind of advertisements, right? So that's basically ad-led model. And the third one is more to say a real money gaming model where people come, they will load their wallet with their own real cash. Let's say poker, let's say rummy, let's say even on something like a WinZO or Dream 11. People will load up a wallet with the cash, and then they will go about playing different games for that cash. Which will entail an entry fee, and top players will win some kind of a cash. And at the end of the day, those platforms or those game providers will take a certain commission from the total pool or total pot. And that's basically a rake or a commission model. Now, and the third model, which is the real money model, is, I would say, one of the fastest growing, right? Because the advent of this model, of course, poker was there, rummy was there, fantasy was there for maybe 8 to 10 years. But over the last 2 years or so, you've suddenly added a new, fresh lot of non-traditional real money games in this fray, right? Where, for example, on WinZO, people can literally play about 55 to 60 odd games by putting in cash and on the back of really, really small microtransactions, right? So it's all microtransaction led, where people can play games like Carom, 8-ball pool, Candy Crush. Even they can participate in some other tournaments, right? Like for Free Fire, for those kind of tournaments, and they can sort of really play it for real money. And we have seen like a massive, very, very fast growth, so to say, in this particular sector.
Bombay Play has just raised about $1.5 million in Series A, right, Oliver? How is the monetization model looking like to you from your lens? And would you say that today gaming apps are poised to look at a profitable journey going ahead, where revenues look really healthy and profits are healthy too? Or are there some monetization challenges you see? Because I'm not sure about the gaming space, but generally we're not a very big paying economy. Like, we don't like to pay for content. We don't like to pay and do things. We like mostly things free.
I would absolutely agree to that. India is a tough market, and generally the content that does well in India is content that does well everywhere. There are a few exceptions to this, like the Ludos, the Caroms, Teen Party. That's a very sort of culturally specific to India. Bombay Play, we raised our seed round of 1.5, and that's actually mainly to take on the international market, not necessarily the India market. We believe the India market is a very exciting place, and for sure it is growing. I mean, it's estimated to be to make 1.1 billion in revenue in 2020 alone, which is, that's more than 2x what Bollywood makes. So gaming in India makes more money than Bollywood at this point. But that number is simply dwarfed by the nearly $160 billion market that is the global gaming opportunity. So there are different approaches to this. You can try and engage in the land rush to capture the market with new and innovative models or very culturally specific content here in India. Or a company in India can turn its head to the global market and try and compete there. So that's what we do at Bombay Play. And I think why a lot of companies have not done this yet is perhaps some doubt around the skill available. But I think it's pretty clear India has a lot of skill when it comes to game development talent. Everyone is affected by COVID-19. The growth that we're seeing is huge. It's everywhere. And it's really down to individual players here in India to seize that opportunity.
Manish, Indian games currently, have seen most success in the Indian market with mobile board games. Would you say that they have a lot of catching up to do when it comes to action and strategy games?
So if you look at it, India market last 2-3 years has really changed when the data became very cheap and the quality of data speeds on mobile networks really improved. I think that's been a very pivotal point in the way you will see the shooting games or you will see strategy games popularity increasing in India. And these are all multiplayer games. And if you do not have really good quality mobile network, you really can't play those games. There will be lag, and those lags don't allow you to do that. So it is very important that infrastructure has to come together for you to really create a large market on multiplayer gaming happening. And I think what Paavan was saying in terms of freemium in our purchase, it's kind of linked to that. If you have a great multiplayer universe game experience happening, in-app purchases would happen. Games like PUBG and Free Fire are really making upwards of $100 million a year in India alone. And that's the kind of numbers which India is churning out. And it was not thinkable 2 years back that these kind of in-app purchase where Indians are known that they will not pay for something which is vanity, they will not pay for a free game which has been downloaded. I think the moment it gets into competitive gameplay, you really start spending money. And that's what really is kind of demonstrated in the big games. And I believe that as the infrastructure continues to improve, propensity to pay will continue to improve also. And you would see a lot of global and local content being created around action games and strategy games. Because what we are talking about is, let's say 100 million gamers for PUBG and close to 80-90 million gamers for Free Fire. Now, they are very substantial large numbers for behavior formation, which means that such large population is already used to playing certain amount of games, is used to paying for items within those games. And market is being created with every passing day, where you would see now a lot of content being created and a lot of global competition coming to India because of the huge 350 million gamers today, which are, some of them are casual, but very fast becoming mid-core gamers, which will translate to revenue monetization.
Pavan, definitely the lockdown has spelled good news for the industry and we've seen some tremendous growth. But what would you say going forward would be this industry's challenge? And if I had to ask you an adjoining question to that, I believe that today we have over 400 gaming startups in India. How many of these 400 gaming startups can actually make a mark or make a dent in the market?
I personally feel, and very strongly rather, that any industry, right, any industry that grows, any industries that really hits off the park, that generate unicorn, that attracts a lot of capital, is the industry a very large opportunity to chase after. And then a lot of really hungry, smart people who are willing to build ventures to chase on that opportunity, right? I mean, you pick any space, for example, food tech, you pick e-commerce, suddenly you will get a lot of bunch of smart folks chasing those opportunities, building the entire supply chain, building the entire value chain of that sector. And I think the same has to be done for gaming. While the opportunity has suddenly become very, very huge post 2018, 2019, now is the time, I would say, for last couple of years, people have really started identifying different pieces of the value chain and excelling at it. And when I say excelling at it, it has to come at a team level, right? Great teams attract better talent and solve tougher problems and generate a lot of value out of it. So I think that's what it is. If we simply go by the count of number of gaming startups, very few make the cut because it's extremely competitive, right? You have to go after the same customer. You have to probably create a similar technology. Probably your product is going to be only 5% better than somebody else's product. And at the end of the day, a lot of these companies, by and large, are still external funding dependent, right? Because Indian audience is still mulling over, or rather getting attuned to the idea of paying very, very recently. Now there is a very massive opportunity that, post-COVID, there is a greater opportunity. Now is the time for people who are already in this industry, or who are people who have always been tempered around or have been got excited about the idea of starting their gaming startup, to really identify an opportunity in this wide space, and you gather the best of the best talent and create a really, really competitive offering, and build your venture on top of that. I think these are the things which I feel are going to be important, whether we are able to really attract the best of the best talent across the world, rather, to help us build this sector from here on.
Let me take it to you, Oliver. You agree that what Paavan has said, and you say talent being one of your biggest challenges within the Indian ecosystem? Or is it also getting Indians to spend?
Getting Indians to spend, that will happen, as Manish said, that will happen with time. That'll happen as game design becomes better, as medium incomes become higher. People have more disposable income to spend on games. That all takes time, and there's no magic formula to suddenly monetizing the India audience. Yes, there is a plentiful talent here in India. Going forward, I would expect to see a lot more gaming startups like spring up now. India is a great place to sort of start a business and do some experiments and see what works. But it is, Paavan was saying, a very competitive market, and you have to be forward-thinking. You can't just copy what's already there on the market. That's not a recipe for success. And if you go at the market like that, you essentially have to go at it with the mindset that you're going to take users from other people. And in order to take users from international gaming companies and services, you have to make a slightly or much 10x better product, and then attract users over from there. But the more forward-thinking developers are the ones, like Manish was saying, those who are focusing more perhaps on the social element of gaming. And on that front, we have a very, very long path ahead of us. We're certainly not at a Red Sea situation. It's a blue ocean when it comes to how do we facilitate social interactions online, especially as the infrastructure and the hardware that the average person has in their pockets improves. We're seeing huge investments coming into Geo right now, and that's only going to benefit the customer and the connectivity of the average citizen even more. What does that mean for gamers? Well, that means that we're just going to have much richer, much more high quality experiences, and hopefully developers here will see that opportunity taking place. India as a culture is very social, and it wouldn't surprise me if the next unicorn in gaming comes out of here.
Well, I truly hope that is in fact a reality going forward. On that note, many thanks, gentlemen. All the very best going forward. Thank you again for your time.